8 million years ago, off a coast that no longer exists, a young whale moved through warm, sunlit water. Small, unremarkable. It fed near the surface and never thought about the dark below it. It should have. For most of the history of life, the deep water held things that were dangerous, but not impossible. Predators that were fast or clever or armored. Predators that made sense. What rose toward the whale that day did not make sense. It came from below and behind, the way the most patient hunters always do. And when it struck, it did not bite to wound and wait. It bit to end everything at once. There was no chase, no struggle worth the name. One moment, and then nothing. A scene like this left its mark in the rock. A single tooth, lodged in bone, waiting for millions of years until we finally found it. The bite is real. Whether it was the kill or only the feast, the stone does not say. The tooth belonged to the largest predatory shark that ever lived. You already know its name. But here's what almost no one stops to ask. A shark that size, hunting like that, should not have been possible. The ocean has rules about how large a hunter can grow before its own body begins to turn against it. Somehow, this one slipped past every one of them. So the real question was never how big it was. The interesting question is the one hidden underneath the size. Something pushed this animal far past the point where most hunters stop. Something made the ordinary not enough. The real question is what kind of world forces a shark to become a monster? A giant is not the same thing as a monster. The ocean has made plenty of giants, gentle ones, slow ones, animals that grew enormous simply by drifting through clouds of tiny prey with their mouths open. But getting big on its own is almost easy. Megalodon did something far harder. You already know the shape of it. A shark longer than a school bus, jaws that could close around a small boat, teeth the size of a human hand, serrated like blades. But the size was never the strange part. It became immense while staying a hunter. It kept its teeth, its power, its appetite for animals that could fight back, and it scaled all of it up to a size that should have made it too costly to move, too hungry to ever stay fed, too expensive to survive. That combination is rare, almost unheard of. So a giant filter feeder is a curiosity. Megalodon is a question. And the answer to that question was not written into the shark. It was written into the ocean around it. To understand this predator, you have to follow it back to the ocean that made it. The seas of that age were not the cold, quiet oceans we know. They were warm, crowded, violently alive. Mountains were rising on the continents, and as they slowly wore down, rivers carried their minerals out to sea. Deep currents lifted still more nutrients up into the sunlit shallows, where life could finally reach them. Together they fed the smallest things in the water, and the smallest things fed everything above them. The result was an ocean running thick with life, a place where there was always something to eat, and always something hungry enough to eat it. In a world that rich, life does not stand still. Every animal that found an advantage was eventually answered by something that found a counter. A faster swimmer met a faster hunter. Better armor met a stronger bite. There was no settling point, no moment where the ocean relaxed and let things stay as they were. This is the quiet engine behind almost every great predator in the fossil record. Not a single creature, but a pressure. A long, patient contest where the only way to hold your place was to keep raising the cost of taking it from you. The ancient ocean had already run this contest for millions of years before Megalodon existed. It showed no mercy and kept no memory. What worked, survived. What did not, vanished from the rock. If you follow the fossil record back far enough, you start to notice the same story repeating. Different animals, different ages, the same outcome. Whenever the ocean grew rich enough and crowded enough, it produced something oversized to sit at the top. The cast keeps changing. The pattern never does. And it was about to run that contest one more time at a scale it had never reached before, because the prey was changing. For a long stretch of that warm age, the ocean filled with whales. Not the giants we picture today, but smaller, leaner animals, spreading through the open water in numbers that had never existed before. And they carried something that would reshape everything that hunted them. Fat. A whale is, to a predator, the richest meal in the sea. Wrapped in blubber, packed with more energy than almost anything else alive. For a hunter large enough to bring one down, a single whale is not a snack. It is days of fuel in one strike. As these whales grew more common and slowly grew larger, they raised the value of the entire game. The prize on the table got bigger. And in an ocean that always answers, a bigger prize pulls bigger hunters into existence behind it. This is the part that feels almost unfair. The whales were not trying to create a monster, they were only trying to survive. Growing, thickening, moving in groups, doing everything prey does to stay alive. But every layer of fat they added was an invitation. Somewhere in that escalating ocean, a lineage of sharks was already rising to meet them. Slowly, generation after generation, the ones that could take the largest, fattest prey left behind the most young. And the ones that could not, did not. The whales were getting bigger, so their hunter would have to. If you enjoy documentaries about the strange forces that shaped prehistoric life, consider subscribing. Because in this ocean, the pressure was only beginning to rise. If the only pressure had been the prey, Megalodon might have stopped at merely large. But it was never going to be the only thing that wanted those whales. The same rich ocean that fed the shark fed its rivals. And the later stages of that age produced some of the most dangerous competitors the sea has ever held. Some of those rivals were whales that had turned hunter. The most dangerous was Leviathan, a sperm whale rebuilt as a predator as long as Megalodon itself, with a blunt, heavy skull and teeth the length of a forearm, made to bite other whales apart. Picture the two of them converging on the same dying whale, one able to crush bone in a single bite, the other with jaws that could shear a body in half, neither one certain of winning, both willing to try. And there were sharks closing in as well, smaller, quicker, the early kin of the great white, hunting the same prey in the same water, waiting for any opening. Suddenly, the richest meal in the ocean was also the most contested. In that kind of world, being big enough to kill a whale is no longer enough. You have to kill it faster than anything else can. Take it cleaner. End the fight before a rival arrives to tear it away from you. The pressure was no longer only about reach, it was about dominance. Surviving an ocean like that would take more than size. It would take a body engineered for it, down to the last detail. And every piece of that engineering can still be read, even now, in what Megalodon left behind. Everything we find strange about Megalodon begins to make sense the moment you stop seeing it as a creature and start seeing it as a solution. Start with the size that should not have worked. A giant built like an ordinary shark, only bigger, would have buckled under its own weight. So the body that survived was not simply scaled up, it was stretched, longer, leaner, until its own mass stopped working against it. Take the problem of cold. Most sharks are prisoners of the water around them. When it cools, they slow down, muscles sluggish, digestion crawling. A cold-blooded giant in those seas would have been stranded wherever the warmth happened to be. Megalodon, the evidence suggests, was not fully at the mercy of the water. Like the great white and a handful of its relatives, it could likely hold parts of its body warmer than the sea outside it. That single trait changed everything. It meant the burst of power to close a kill on demand. It meant the freedom to follow prey into colder, deeper water that should have shut it down. A warm engine in a cold ocean. The first answer. And here's the strange rhythm of this animal. Every answer the ocean handed it seemed to arrive with a new problem attached. A warm engine is expensive. It burns fuel constantly whether you eat or not, and that created a harder problem. At that size, a missed kill is not an inconvenience, it is a slow death. So the killing could not afford to fail. Most predators wound their prey and wait for it to weaken. Megalodon, by every mark it left behind on fossil bone, does not seem to have waited. When scientists model that bite, the numbers rank among the most powerful ever calculated for a living thing. Force enough, very likely, to crush straight through ribs and into the organs beneath in a single closing of the jaws. It did not hunt to injure, it hunted to end the animal at once. For a body that costly, That was the only math that worked. And then the teeth. Broad, thick, edged like knives, built to punch through something massive without shattering, then shed and replaced again and again, each one shaped by the same relentless rule. Do not fail. Do not break. Do not let it get away. Even being born was brutal. Newborn megalodon were already larger than a grown human, bigger at birth than most sharks ever become. We find evidence of shallow coastal nurseries, sheltered places where the young could grow before facing the open sea. They needed that shelter because the open ocean had no patience for small things. Even before birth, the lesson had already begun. Like its living relatives, the developing young likely grew by devouring a steady supply of eggs inside the mother, so that the ones who finally entered the world entered it already fed, already large, already armed. Nothing about this animal was gentle. Nothing about it was excess. Every piece of it was an answer to a world that punished anything less. Step back and look at all of it at once. Every part of it. The warm body, the one-strike bite, the unbreakable teeth, the lethal head start at birth, was the same answer to the same world, pressed into one animal and held there for millions of years. None of it was an accident, and none of it was a plan. This is the part worth sitting with. Megalodon did not decide to become extreme. There was no goal, no design, no will pushing it upward. There was only the ocean, endlessly rewarding the ones that could take the richest prey and survive the fiercest rivals, and quietly erasing everyone who fell short. Run that process long enough, in a world that warm and that crowded, and something like Megalodon becomes increasingly likely. Not because the shark reached for it, because the world kept removing every other option. Picture it not as a creature that appeared one day, but as a shape the ocean pressed into existence over an unimaginable stretch of time. Every storm of competition, every fattening whale, every rival that pushed back, all of it slowly bending one lineage of sharks toward a single brutal outcome. The ocean did not happen to contain a monster. Over millions of years, it manufactured one. Megalodon was not the cause of that brutal age. It was the receipt. Here is the unsettling thing about a creature built so perfectly for one world. It only works in that world. Megalodon was the answer to a warm, rich, crowded ocean full of slow, fat-heavy whales. Every part of it quietly assumed that world would last. It did not. The planet cooled, the currents shifted, the seas that had run so hot for so long began to change, and the whales changed with them. Moving toward colder water, growing larger and faster, slipping out of reach of a hunter built for a warmer, easier hunt. The richest meal in the ocean started to vanish, or to swim where the monster could not easily follow. And the same pressure that had built Megalodon now turned against it. A body that enormous, that expensive, that specialized, was a triumph only as long as the giant prey was there to feed it. When the table emptied, all of that size became a weight it could no longer carry. The ocean that made the monster unmade it. And then it did something stranger still. It left the space empty. No shark ever rose to take that exact place again. The role Megalodon filled simply closed, but the rules that built it never stopped running. The ocean is still warm in places, still crowded, still pressing on everything that lives in it. Megalodon was one answer it once produced. The only real question is what it is building now, somewhere out past the light where we have not yet thought to look. If you enjoyed this documentary and want to explore more of Earth's lost worlds, make sure to subscribe, because the deeper we look into prehistory, the stranger the ocean becomes. And there are still countless stories hidden beneath the surface.